The last vlog that I posted on this channel was the process of me slowly falling into a small book slump, and I'm still not sure if I'm like in a slump or not. I'm very bored of the same thing and I want something incredibly different just to give myself a refresher, change things up. So I don't want to read a romantasy or a fantasy that's on my shelf. I don't want a boring romance. I want something new and something different. And so I was thinking in my head, what could I read for a vlog? And I decided I wanted to jump into Kristin Hannah's historical fiction. I have heard nothing but amazing things about Kristin Hannah's books. They are chunky, emotional, historical fiction novels, and apparently she is just an incredible author, and I want to know what the hype is. So I have on my computer a couple of her more popular books. The first one on the list is The Nightingale, which has a 4.63 average rating on Goodreads, and over 1.5 million people have rated this book. So if that doesn't tell you how popular and how much everyone loves this book, I'm being serious when I say that. Then there's also The Great Alone. The Women is her most recent book, I believe. The Four Winds, Firefly Lane, and the list goes on from there. But I think if I had to pick a book that I want to start with, I probably would like to start with The Nightingale. I want to see, what the story is, what the hype is, why everyone cries at the end. So I need to go head out right now and pick up some groceries, but I'm also going to stop at Barnes & Noble and see if they have a paperback copy of this book because I would love to own it. Hopefully it's a great one. So that's what I'm crossing my fingers for. Great news, I got the goods. So I went in there with a goal to buy one book. I of course bought two, obviously. So I did find The Nightingale by Kristin Hannah. I was looking originally at the historical fiction shelf and I saw a lot of her books, but a lot of her least popular and older books. So I was worried that her popular ones had already sold out. But I went to the counter, asked the lady, and apparently there was a special table all for Kristin Hannah. So she's that popular, she gets a special table. So I found this one along with all of her other popular books. So there were so many copies of this, but I'm glad it's in paperback. For some reason, I just love a chunky paperback so much, so satisfying. So I'm excited about this. I'm gonna start this today. And then also last week in my last vlog, I showed you guys I went to a small bookstore at my grandparents' town and I got Terms and Conditions by Lauren Asher. It's on my shelf up there. But I was debating between that one and Wildfire by Hannah Grace, and I'm still thinking about those two. So I decided to just buy Wildfire while I'm at it. I haven't read either books, but these are both the second books in romance trilogies that I'm in the middle of. So in a future vlog where I'm continuing series I'm in the middle of, I'll read this one and Terms and Conditions from last vlog. So wanted to get this as well. This was my haul. Pretty good one if you ask me. And I'm excited to get into this one later today. I need to change up my angles more often. I feel like I film in the same 2 or 3 spots in my dorm room, but listen, I've got limited lighting. So I wanted to update you guys on The Nightingale by Kristin Hannah. I don't want to say I'm pleasantly surprised because I'm not really surprised. I'm just really enjoying this and I kind of knew that I would. It's popular, everyone loves it. I knew it would be a good book, but I am surprised that I'm flying through it so quickly because it's just very engaging and it's very easy to consume. Even though it is about harder topics, I find myself just wanting to keep reading. I'm already 120 pages in, so I'm already a fifth of the way through. That's a better way to show it. And I have put some annotating tabs in here already. They're kind of hard to see because they are in light blue, but I did want to annotate this book because I hear it has some good lines in it. I don't know, it's just a good time. Okay, not a great time because it's about World War II, so it's not happy times, but I'm enjoying the process of reading this book and I'm glad that I'm actually getting engaged in something and trying to stay out of that book slump zone. But let's talk about what the book is actually about. Obviously it's about World World War II, but specifically it follows two sisters. The oldest is Vianne. She is married to a guy named Antoine. She's 28, and she lives with her daughter, Sophie. They live in Carivaux? Maybe it's Carivaux. So if you know where that city is, on the west side of France, west-north. And so when the Germans come and invade, they take over control of the north half of France, and then the southern half is left for the French officials to take control of. And so her city has been taken over by the Nazis, which is obviously not good. Now, the other point of view that we follow is Isabelle, who is her younger sister. Isabelle is 18, so she's 10 years younger than her. And Isabelle is a very different person than Vianne. She is very feisty, rebellious. She holds a grudge against Vianne for how Vianne treated her whenever they were younger, because they were both left by their father, and Vianne dealt with her mother. Her mother passed, and her mother's grief by like secluding herself and staying away from younger sister Isabelle, so Isabelle always felt neglected. So there's a rivalry and there's a lot of tension between the two sisters, but Isabelle is determined that she wants to fight against the Nazis. She wants to rebel with France and not give up that energy to win the war. And so she is sent to Vianne's house because Paris was bombed and she was in Paris with her dad and is living with Vianne, but she is determined to like join the resistance and fight back against the Nazis and prove that they cannot take control over France, whereas Vianne, whose husband Antoine was drafted to go and join the French war, is just constantly praying that he will come back. She is just so focused on the French surrendering, which means that her husband will come home, and she will do anything that she needs to do. She will follow the rules, she will follow the curfew, she will do anything that they tell her to, because she's so convinced that the surrender is a good thing and that her husband will be home soon. So that is where I am in the book. Kind of a lengthy, all over the place synopsis, but I don't want to give any more than that because I feel like anything past that would be a spoiler, but that all happens in the first like 50, 100 pages, so I don't think it's really much of a spoiler, just to give you that general context. Personally, if I had to picture myself in the position, I would probably be very much on the side of Vianne, where I'm like, I'm too scared to revolt in fear for my death. And also Vianne has a child, like she has Sophie, and that's obviously her whole world. So like she will do anything she can to protect her daughter, which I completely understand. So like I probably would be more on the side of like air of caution. However, I do appreciate, like as a book character specifically, Isabelle's point of view of wanting to fight back and not letting the Germans just completely take control and conquer France, like allowing France to actually fight back. So it's kind of like I get both of their sides, and I think it's really interesting that we get to flip back and forth between both point of views as a reader, because we get to see each of their thought processes, and also because there's so much tension between the sisters from their childhood. It's like they don't get along perfectly, and they're going to have arguments about these things, and they're going to butt heads. And so there's so much more than just the political side of this as far as the plot goes. There's also character relationships and things like that. And I know this is going to be an entire book about womanhood and sisterhood and just all of that coming together, so I'm really excited about how this book continues and to see how their relationships change and develop. But for now, this is going really well, and I want to keep reading, but I have homework, so isn't that just my lot in life, to be honest? Besties, we have an issue. We have an issue, and it's not with this book. Okay, this book has been nothing but phenomenal. The issue is that I haven't touched this book in over 24 hours. And why, you may ask? It's because this show, I'll put the poster right here, Monsters, came out on Netflix, and everyone has been asking me, Lyle or Eric. So I said, fine, I'll watch the show. The show is freaking phenomenal. It's phenomenal. For the record, Lyle and Eric, okay, they're both so hot, but it's so good. It's so good. If you guys didn't know, this is a new show that came out talking about the Menendez brothers, who are two brothers in the 90s who were accused of killing their parents. They did kill their parents. Actually, they weren't accused. They did kill their parents. And I've heard complaints that this show is inaccurate, so I am going to watch the documentary on Netflix afterwards and kind of like compare different sides of the story, because the fictionalized version says a different story than the documentary, according to people online. But that being said, inaccuracy or not, this show is incredible. As a film major too, like it's not just that they are hot, because they're really hot, and they're phenomenal actors. Oh my god, they can cry on cue like that, and they're acting. It's so good. The cinematography of it too. It's shot beautifully. I like the way that they organize the story and like how they go back in time, go forward in time, and they give you tidbits of information only as you need it, but not as you want it. Like they'll hide things from you and then reveal it later. Episode, was it 5? I think it was episode 5, is a 30-minute episode, all one single take. If you don't know what that means, it means that they had the camera running for 30 minutes. They didn't cut it once. They just pressed start, and for 30 minutes, two actors sat at the table and had a conversation for 30 minutes, and then they stopped the camera, and that's the end of the episode. It's incredible. I'm on episode 7. I started it last night. Each episode is like 30-40 minutes long. There are only 9 in the season. I want to finish it, but I need to also read this. You see my dilemma? You see my problem here? I'm not doing well. I'm doing okay. But like the show in itself, not only does it deal with a lot of very dark topics, like obviously murdering your parents is not a very PG level topic. And I knew that going in. What I didn't know going in was the amount of abuse, specifically sexual abuse, that they in detail talk about in this show. If that is a trigger warning to you, I did not know about that going in, so please watch your triggers for this. Do not watch the show if something like that will trigger you. However, it's so emotional. The actors are so good. It's shot so well. And I get that it's about murderers. I get it, okay? And I don't know how the show's gonna end at all. As of right now, I still have like 2 episodes left, maybe 3. I don't care. I'm rooting for them. I know. I'm still rooting for them. It's all fictional. I'm rooting for the fictional characters. Like I said, I know that the real life story could be different, so can't say anything about that. As far as these fictional characters go, I'm rooting for them. I'm on their side, okay? Specifically, Eric, give that man a hug. He needs it. Anyway, with that being said, I need to actually like sit my butt down and read this book because I have been working all day, and in between working I've been watching that TV show, and I need to actually be continuing this vlog and getting further than 100 pages in, because I am no further than the last update, which was Thursday. It's now Saturday, so I need to actually like continue the book. So I'm gonna sit my butt down and read for at least an hour because I need to make some progress. Yeah, that's that. If you've watched the show, please comment down below. I'm convincing my friends to watch it, but they haven't seen it yet, and I'm just like, please watch it. If you can, watch the triggers, but like please watch it, because oh my god, this could legitimately be my top 3 favorite shows of all time. First place is Peaky Blinders. This could be 2 or 3. Like, it's really good. Okay, I'm gonna go. Goodbye. In case anyone was very curious, I just want to let you know that I did finish Monsters this morning. Well, last night, and I watched the last episode this morning. And I did sob my heart out at the ending. I'm not doing well. Okay, listen, I knew it was gonna happen. I predicted the exact shot that they were gonna show with the cars. If you know, you know. The shot with the cars at the end. I predicted it. In my head, I was like, I know they're gonna do this, and I don't want them to, I know they're going to, and then they did, and I broke out into tears. So, such a good show. I have goosebumps. Like, anyway, what I also did between the last time that we have talked is gotten further in this book, thank goodness. So last night I read 100 pages. I told myself I have to get to page 200 before I pick up Netflix again. And then I just read a little more today, this morning. I'm almost halfway through this book. I'm about like 40%, almost 50% through this book. It's very, I don't want to say it's emotionless. It's not at all. There's a lot of emotion in this story. But what I think it is right now it's just kind of plain. We understand that the Germans have conquered the cities, but because of the attitude that are in the people of the towns, like they're fed up, they're hungry, they're cold in the winter, they don't have any food, like the Germans are taking over, they're angry at the Germans mostly, or they've just given up. Like morale is incredibly low for everyone. So the emotions that we are seeing in the characters is just that, like depression, low morale, frustration, hopelessness, missing loved ones, things like that. I'm not like crying or like viciously angry yet. I'm just watching the characters go through really hard times. I mean, war is hard, so like this is an accurate representation. I mean, I wouldn't know. I've never been in a war before, but what I think is an accurate representation of something like this. You know, it's real, but that also means it's kind of dry, kind of slow, kind of boring, because we're just watching characters go through every day while their country is being conquered by a dictator. So like, it's not going to be happy fun times, you know? Now this is going to be a non-spoiler vlog, so I'm not going to say any spoilers here, but I will say that Isabel is being her rebellious self and trying to make efforts against the Germans. So she's definitely making big steps there, like I said in my last update or the one before, I don't know, but she is much more passionate about fighting back against the Germans, whereas Vianne is much more comfortable in just kind of staying low as long as she and Sophie stays safe. However, I'm actually enjoying Vianne's point of views a little more just because I like her more as a character. I think I like the feisty side that Isabel has, don't get me wrong. I think she's a very nuanced character, but I also think that she can sometimes act a little young, and part of the plot is that she's trying to prove that she's not the young girl that she was. In fighting for the French and fighting against the Nazis, she is trying to push against the persona that she's built over her childhood of just being rambunctious and saying things without thinking about it and not caring about the consequences. Instead, she's trying to prove that she is a woman now and she's grown up, but it's kind of hard because she kind of slips back into those younger tendencies sometimes. So I appreciate her trying to work on that, and I can see that there's going to be character growth throughout the rest of this book, but I think it's kind of hard sometimes to watch her because I'm like, maybe it's not the time, babe. Maybe we should not say something that incriminating or that violent against like a German officer. Maybe that's not the best idea, you know, for everyone's sake. Whereas Vianne is much more mature, poised, maybe to an extreme, but you know, you're gonna have both sides with the two sisters. I am gonna get into a little bit of spoiler territory here. It's not like huge spoilers, but I do want to like separate this from the non-spoiler section. So if you don't want to hear any spoilers, skip to this timestamp over here on the side. I'll give you a second to skip. It's not gonna be anything big. It's just like small little things, but if you don't want to know, then you know. Okay, spoilers, small spoilers start now. So the captain that has billeted is now living basically in Vianne's home, Captain Beck. He is such an interesting character to me, and I think it's a cool way, well, not cool, but it's interesting to put him in the book because Kristen Hanna writes him as this genuinely like nice guy. Like he's married, he has kids, so he like relates to Vianne and that he also misses his family as much as she misses her husband. He is just very kind to her. He is not brooding and overbearing and mean like some of the other people, some of the other Germans that take over people's houses are. He's very respectful of her space. He kind of notices when she is having a rough day. He does very nice things for her. He like goes out and chop the wood for her. He will bring home like fish and wine for her, although he knows that she may not want to take it because he's a German. Like he's very aware of these things, and also he happened to get contact with her husband, so he is allowing them to send letters back and forth, which is great because now she can contact obviously her loving husband, so that's amazing. But I think it's nuanced because obviously this is supposed to be the enemy. It is the enemy in her home. Like he is a German captain living in her home. She's French, but he doesn't act evil, so it's hard to picture him, to her point of view, as some evil person when he's acting very nice to her. And so it's like, you know, representing like real human experiences. It's not always just plain black and white. I appreciate that in this book. Another thing was the issue with her writing the list for him. So we asked her to write a list of all the German and I think communist teachers that are at the school that she works in, and she wrote the list because he said it was just for clergy purposes. Now obviously us readers know that that's not how things go in the Holocaust, but at this time, as someone who is not very aware, not saying that she's like dumb, but like it's early in the war, we don't know the extent of German atrocities at this point in the war. She believes him, she writes down all the names, and then they're all dismissed from teaching, and one of them is her best friend and neighbor, Rachel, who is a Jew, and so she basically gets her best friend fired, and she apologizes, which I'm proud of her for doing, and they have a conversation about it, but also adds nuance when you unknowingly or unintentionally are assisting the enemy and betraying your best friend. Like there's, you know, there's quite conflict. It's not fast moving conflict, but it's conflict nonetheless. Last thing I want to say is with Isabel joining the rebellion. I mentioned this briefly in the non-spoiler section, but I just think it's incredibly brave of her. And I mean, obviously this is a book about womanhood, but specifically it really stuck out to me. I'll even read it for you. There was this one line that I read. So she is meeting with revolutionaries in Paris, and there is a woman there, and she says to her, she says, if you get caught, it will be as a woman, you understand. They have special unpleasantries for us. So it's like on top of all the other levels of like, if she gets caught, she's going to get tortured, imprisoned, and most likely executed. There's also the fact that she is a woman, which means that loads of other stuff could happen to her simply because she's a girl. You get my drift. So it's like adding that extra level makes it even more apparent how much her sacrifice is, and she's still willing to put herself at risk and to go through with it because she believes basically that no one cares for her, that her family doesn't love her, and so she has nothing to lose, which is sad, but I'm sure that will be fixed by the end of this book. We will have those conversations. So yeah, with that being said, those are my thoughts so far. Almost halfway through. It's going slowly, but writing is really good. Nuance is very good. It's very good. I think I've already worn this shirt in this video, so the fact that I've gone through an entire laundry cycle and the time it's taken me to get to this point in the video tells you that it's been over a week. In fact, I think the last time I talked to you was Sunday. Started the vlog the Thursday before that, and currently it's Friday. And this is the first time I'm updating you because this is the first day I've gotten further in the Nightingale. So I want to talk about it. This week has been so busy for me, like so busy. Last night, I finally got the chance to read a good chunk of this book. I got like a little over 100 pages last night, so I am currently at the 67% mark. I only have a third of the book left to go, which is great. I'm flying through it. Well, okay, I'm not flying through it, but when I sit down and read it, I'm reading it fast. It's just I'm not reading very often because my schedule's been hectic, but I'm not even done with it. There's just so many tabs in here. I mean, you can see them kind of. There's just, I'm tabbing everything. It's really, 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 really good. I'm getting to the part in this book where everything that I say would be a spoiler, and like I said, I've only read last night as like the first time all week, and I sat in my bed for like an hour and a half last night, and I didn't cry, but I read some emotional stuff, okay? Things started to happen. Like, okay, at the beginning of this book, I don't want to say the beginning was slow. There were things happening for sure, but like I said earlier in this video, like watching people go through war and Nazi control and just having to live in a situation where you can't do anything about it in most cases, it's just gonna be a hard read. It's not gonna be incredibly engaging and fast-paced because you're following the lives of people whose lives are not engaging and fast-paced. They're just waiting for food, they're sitting in queues, they're being bossed around by Nazis. If you're a Jew or you're any other person that are being persecuted against by the Nazis, you're being deported, you're being separated from your families, you're being persecuted against. Like, it's not a fun time. So it's not going to be a fun and fast-paced, enjoyable book. But I will say that we've gotten to the point where things are happening. Isabel is doing the damn thing. Vianne is doing the damn thing. There's just a lot going on now. And that's why I was flying through it so fast last night. And I got through over 100 pages. It's war, okay? People are going to die. I don't know how this book ends. I don't know if I mentioned this at the beginning part. The book opens with a chapter in 1995. And you see the point of view of an old woman who is being moved out of her house and put into a nursing home. And we don't know who this woman is. So 1995, it could be one of the sisters. It also could be neither. It could be someone completely different. So what I'm saying is, because the identity of this old woman in the 90s, whose perspective we've only gotten twice, I think I'm about to hit that third chapter, but like I said, I'm 67% of the way through this book and I'm only hitting the third point of view from her. So it doesn't happen often. I honestly forget about it until we get to those chapters. But because we don't know this woman's identity, we don't know who lives, you know? I don't think it's a spoiler to say that I don't know if both the sisters are going to make it, because they're literally in World War II trying to survive like everyone else was, but so many people didn't. And so it could be neither. They both could die, hypothetically. So it's very much like, I don't know where this book is going. Not everyone's going to make it out, unfortunately. That's just the case. And so it's one of those books where I'm like completely out of the know. I have no clue how this is going to end. Again, I'm not going to spoil anything. I'm not going to say anything else because it would be a spoiler, but this is looking like high 4-star, maybe 5-star potential. I knew it was going to be good, but it's just really good. More pages left. I'm scared. I'm tapping like every single page at this point. Oh, I knew it. Okay, I took a few minutes to pause and decompress, and now I'm ready to talk about this book, The Nightingale. Obviously, y'all saw me just cry throughout the last 30 pages. I knew I was going to cry at some point. There are so many moments in this book that were very, very emotional and very hard-hitting, but I think that number one, this past 2 weeks, because it's taken me a while to get through this book. Like I said, kind of been struggling through a reading slump as of recently, but the past couple weeks it's taken me to read this. I've only done it in like chunks, so I've kind of been separated from the story, so that's totally like a me problem, not a book problem. But also I think that just the story, like I've mentioned so many times before in this video, is about war. It's very dry, it's very just real, and so while things are sad, a lot of things I just kind of like accept, and I'm reading it like, yeah, wow, that's sad, but I'm not actually crying. But here we are, end of the book. I did cry. Just look at the amount of annotations in this book. Specifically towards the end, I started to like really ramp them up. There are just so many moments in here that are just so puncturing, you know, whether it's an emotional moment between two characters, whether it's a good line, whether it's making fun of America Americans. Like, this book is full of little nuggets of goodness amidst all of the horror and terror in this book. And again, I don't want to spoil anything, so I'm not going to say, you know, the plot twist that we realize at the end and what happens. I will say that people, you know, make fun of the book A Little Life, I think it's what it's called, and they say it's like trauma porn. Personally, I've never actually read that book, and I don't intend to read that book, but this book may be my version of that, in that everything just kept getting worse and worse, and you think you've gotten to like the bad thing that's gonna happen, like the number one worst thing that's gonna happen to this character, and then something else worse happens after it, and it just kind of compounds and grows, and it's a hard one to get through for sure. It talks about concentration camps and Nazi control and how that affected so many people, but usually when we read these books we think about Jews and how that affected the Jews, which definitely we should. Like, the Holocaust was an absolutely terrible time in history, and definitely the people that were murdered need to be remembered 100%. But I think it's just very interesting that this book takes a different perspective, because both of the main characters are French, they're not Jew. It follows people who experienced the war very differently than the stereotypical Holocaust book that we quite often read. Like, I've read Night, I've read Boy in the Striped Pajamas, I've read Tattoos of Auschwitz, I've read The Book Thief, so many other World War II books that follow specifically Jewish families or people with Jewish relatives, things like that. This is very different because it follows French people, but I like that. And it follows women in the war and how much they impacted the war, how much Isabel did, and even Van too. They both just did so much to help other people, to save people, and they both just had this compellingness in their hearts that they couldn't just stand by and watch these things happen. They had to do something about it, and their even small decisions made such a big impact for so many people's lives. It's just incredible, and this is really incredible, and I don't really know what else to say except for the fact that I think you know at this point, even before watching this video but after this video, that Kristen Hanna is just an incredible writer. Like, this was really phenomenal. Yeah, that was an emotional roller coaster. I knew it was going to take me for a loop, but wow. I think my final rating for The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna is going to be 4 stars. It is not a 5-star feeling for me. You know, a couple things just didn't completely hit for me in very small ways, but as a whole this was really fantastic. So 4 stars for this. I need to go read something light and fluffy to like cleanse my palate. But that's that. So thank you so much for watching this video. As always, subscribe to my channel. I post new book videos every single Thursday. I'm sending you guys so much love. Have an amazing week. I'm gonna go find myself a little tissue box so I can like dry my eyes. I will see you guys in the next video.